Thanks for staying with us here on TVC Breakfast. It's not time for us to look at what the papers are reporting this morning. The Nation newspaper with the banner headline, Court Kicks Out PDP NWC. Ibadan Convention declared illegal. Wike, Fayose, Olawepo, Hashim, canvas reconciliation. Next is the Daily Trust newspaper, 2027, why PDP may not be on the ballot. Next is This Nigeria. PDP, Lawal Zamfara governor, runs to APC. Appeal court shocks Makinde's group. Nullifies Ibadan Convention. Drop your ego. Let's unite to save our party. Wike tells aggrieved members. And Turaki faction heads to the Supreme Court. The Blueprint newspaper is next. PDP in disarray. Appeal court nullifies Ibadan Convention. Zamfara governor quits. And Observer Times also puts it succinctly. Appeal court sacks Turaki-led NWC, voids Ibadan Convention. With the NWC sacked, the path to the next general election becomes increasingly uncertain. And Nigerian Tribune, Nigerians groan as petrol price rises. Petrol sells between 1,200 to 1,300 in Lagos, Ogun, Ibadan, Delta, others amidst Dangote price review. Next is the Punch newspaper. Businesses brace for inflation. The inflation surge as petrol hits 1,300 naira per litre. G7 also weighing emergency oil release to tame soaring crude prices. The Leadership newspaper. US-Israel war with Iran. Motorists, commuters lament as petrol prices hits 1,250 naira per litre. And the Nigerian News Direct also has a Middle East crisis. As long as we continue to receive domestic crude, Nigeria will not lack supply. That's Dangote refinery. As Brent crude hits $104 to $104.48 per barrel. And Platform Times also has talked about insecurity. Viral video showing child soldiers sparks fresh tension in Borno. Authorities suspect abducted minors forced into militant roles. And last but not least is the Sporting Life. Kayserispor and Trabzonspor 3 saying, okay, Kayserispor has 1 and Trabzonspor has 3. That's Onochu gets 20th league goal of the season. Scores breaks club record. And one sad story here is Onigbinde, who passes on at 88. All right, then, we'll definitely get down to the brass tag by looking at some of the headlines, up for not up for grabs this time around, but up for discussion. But then, Nelson, let's agree on something. Olamide is just joining us, and let's give her a holiday. But she's going to chime in
now, guys.
All right then. So looking at the Nation newspaper, if you look at the Nation newspaper, the same thing with the Daily Trust, the same with This Nigeria, Blueprint newspaper. Observer Times also has its own angle to it. We'll talk about it. But the Nation newspaper is saying court kicks out PDP NWC. Mr. Abiodun Shomi was clairvoyant yesterday when he was saying that certainly the Wike faction will definitely win at court. Even though I was saying please, well, the matter is still in court, so it shouldn't be sub judice. But then he finally won.
And I'm hoping really that the Makinde-led faction would let the matter be, and possibly the PDP would come together and find some kind of solution for their party. But if he decides to take the matter to the court, a lot of technicalities, which is what Biodun was referring to yesterday, are stacked up against well, let me not say I guess, are stacked up that might not make the, go the way they would be thinking. But it's really sad, frankly speaking, Ibrahim, to see what is going on within the PDP. The PDP stood tall in this country for many years, bragged on its own strength and ability, to rule in the country for generations. Alas, that did not happen. But for me, it's not about what had even happened to the PDP that is my wahala. The issue I'm looking at is crisis can always happen, but how you handle the crisis, the intelligence that comes onto the table to converse on the crisis is more important to me than the crisis itself. And what I'm hearing coming from the PDP is not looking very intelligent, it's not looking very mature, it's not looking forthright, it's not looking visionary. It looks scattered left, right, and center. And so that's where, for me, the trouble really lies. Then impacting on the matter of delivering credible opposition politics in the country. Now, the governor of Zamfara has joined the APC as well, leaving the PDP to just 2 governors as we speak in the country. That does not look fine at all.
This is, Olamide, very quickly, this PDP that boasted, back in the day when they ruled for 16 years. They said, we'll go 60 more years, and here they are. It's so sad that, the last by-elections that we had, even the FCT election, they didn't field candidates, and this might play out in 2027. How does it feel not having the almighty PDP if they are not able to resolve the crisis?
It's a shame that their umbrella is not shielding them. I have to work on that one. But I will say this, this is more than an internal party dispute. This is effectively a judicial intervention in party legitimacy, and that is not good for any party. I mean, scrapping a national working committee so close to the election cycle, there are procedural questions that will be raised, political questions that will be raised, and rightly so. The court is effectively communicating, if they're scrapping this Ibadan convention, that the leadership that birthed that structure is defective, and that is a problem for PDP.
Most definitely. Mr. Shomi, if you look at the Observer Times, it's saying appeal court sacks Turaki-led NWC, voids Ibadan Convention. So with the NWC sacked, the path to the next general election becomes increasingly, uncertain. And there is a booby trap, by INEC, talking about the the revised Electoral Act 2026, where the new regulations, is actually saying that electronic register requirement, INEC, they have to do the electronic register of members to INEC 21 days before any primary, and technical disqualification. Analysts suggest that these rules could strangle the opposition if internal disarray prevents them from organizing a unified and authentic membership list in time.
Oh, no, there's absolutely no doubt that PDP digs a hole, and then they fell into the same hole, and they keep digging the same hole with a view to get out of it. I don't know how that is possible. The issues were laid out.
Well, if you look at it in the animal kingdom, when the rodent actually digs a burrow, it comes out from the other side. That's
from the other side, but that's not what PDP is doing. They are actually digging deeper, deeper into the earth surface. So how are they going to get out of it until they reach the crust of the earth? Now, the problem is this. It's quite very clear. The issues were made very clear by the court. All they simply need to do is comply with your own constitution, because they were supposed to have primaries in all the states. They only had in 14, leaving the rest. What happens to the rest without conducting primaries? So how can you have convention? Where did you get those delegates from? You only want to pick those who you like in those states? You can't do that. I mean, your constitution does not allow you to do that. The electoral law does not allow you to do that. So why do you want to do that? Secondly, how would somebody paid for nomination form, fill in the nomination form, and for no reason you refuse to allow him, to participate in the convention primaries? So it's quite obvious they were violating not only their own constitution, the Electoral Act, and to worsen the matter, INEC was not even at that convention. So it's clear to anybody that, look, this is a hopeless case. What they need to do is to go back to the drawing table, like Wike suggested. Why not reconcile amongst yourself rather than seeking to appeal to the Supreme Court? Otherwise, it will be too late. The issue of e-register cannot even come into it now, because they are still disputing which faction is controlling the party. So who else would organize the e-registration? That's the problem.
Mr. Shomi, if you can do this in about a minute. Now we see Lawal and Zamfara governor running to APC. Nelson made allusion to that. Do you see PDP not just in a fix, but has reached a cul-de-sac, dead end?
Well, PDP is still a formidable force, because when you look at the entire opposition in Nigeria, they still have structures, better structures than ADC and all these other opposition political parties. The problem is leadership. The center is not holding, and that is why things are falling apart within the PDP.
That's right.
So except they get their hearts together and probably use Wike's formula, which is let us reconcile, swallow your ego, let's sit down and sort things out. If they fail to do that, people like, I'm surprised there are still more governors left in PDP, because which platform would you use to present candidates if this crisis continues? All
right, then, let's move on to the Nigerian Tribune. Has the same with the Punch newspaper. Leadership newspaper also says the same, and Nigerian News Direct also speaks to the same. Nelson, I'll start off with you. We started off this conversation with Dangote saying that they've even been able to shore up about, no, not shore up, something like a buffer for 20% that they've actually swallowed, which is still stabilizes the price, relatively. But there is a man, one of the billionaires in, is it Qatar or UAE, saying that Trump, you ask us to come and sign, for board of peace, but the ink has not even dried. It has not even dried. Everywhere is aflame. So how do we make Nigerians better understand that this is not a Nigerian issue? It's a global issue. Very quickly.
From that, my brother there on the report we saw, the guy was saying, are we white people? Are we Oyibo? and that's the conversation going around the country. Nigerians have not yet really, a lot of Nigerians rather, have not yet really understood how that is impacting us. Number one, we need to understand that Nigeria is not an independent nation, independent on all fronts. No. And so when it comes to global oil matters like this, we source our crude oil also from outside the shores of Nigeria. Now, whatever impacts, the sourcing of those crude oil, I'm trying to speak to Nigerians now, whatever impacts the sourcing of those crude oil impacts on the pricing. Because again, remember, they don't just dash it to you, you buy it. And so at whatever rate is sold out there, you bring it back, it will impact on the refined processed product at the end of the day. And so that's how this thing is really affecting us. So we are not Oyibo, but we are consuming what everybody's consuming. So you see how we get into that frame. Now, this then calls for global unionization. The UN and all the, the AUs and so on and so forth. I think we need to come down, sit on the table and discuss global peace. Because if this war is sustained, then the trajectory would keep increasing. Somebody is projecting 2,000, and who knows whether it will even go beyond that.
God forbid.
We need to now look into it.
God forbid.
Where then I said earlier, Ibrahim, sorry, my brother, that we as a country, we then need to sit back and decide, are we still going to export crude, or is it time that we look inwards and say, maybe we shut down the borders of taking whatever small we have to take out and find a way of refining within our country so we can try to regulate the pricing?
That's right. All right, Mr. Shomi, just very quick. Olamide, I'll come to you with the platform times. But in the meantime, we see that the Brent crude price is going from between $120 per barrel to about $200 per barrel. Even the ships that pass through the Strait of Hormuz, shipping prices have moved from $800,000 to about $3.9 million. That's huge, and the effect is really, really going to be massive if it continues.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, if you're talking about a situation where Urals, which is the Russian crude, is now selling $91, per barrel. So, competing with Brent. So that will tell you we are in a serious problem globally. I foresee that at a point we're going to have to pay about 2,500 naira per liter. Whether that will be real or not depends on how long this war will last. If this war fails to end within the next 2-3 weeks, I guess the price of a barrel of crude oil will be about $150 per barrel, and that you cannot blame on anybody except Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu.
That's right.
Those are the facts. Those are the people who started this war.
When people say, people would even call Operation Epstein, Operation Epic Fury. People are now changing it to Operation Epstein Fury because of those guys are involved. Or they call it Operation, I've forgotten the other name that they call it.
The annoying part is that this war is avoidable. Why throw the whole world? The whole global economy is in crisis now.
That's why they say they also call it big business. They also call it Operation Epic.
That shit I saw for now.
Operation Epic Failure. That's another word that they also called it. All right, then, Olamide, platform times. Viral video shows child soldier sparks. Showing child soldier sparks fresh tension in Borno. This sounds more like a consonant cluster. Authorities suspect abducted minors forced into militant roles. Residents urge urgent military government intervention, and UNICEF data reveals over 1,100 children recruited in the Northeast. And I think this data was for 2024 alone. This is something that I don't know, because this Boko Haram, they are claiming to have taken back some, claiming some areas which belong to the government.
This is absolutely unacceptable. The presence of minors in militant formation, it's very, very worrisome, because it now goes past insurgency, and this is a grave crime under humanitarian law to exploit children in that way.
Yeah.
And that now makes military response a very, very sensitive and complicated, because essentially a child who is a combatant could also be a victim. How does the military respond to this? This is not the first time these concerns have been raised. UNICEF has raised these concerns before. It's not the first time that we are seeing. Now, historically, insurgents are more likely to use children as part of their terrorism efforts, because children psychologically, yes, are less likely to resist command. A lot of these children are relying on adults around them for food, for shelter. So imagine that children are being abducted on one end. Children are also being recruited into terrorist organizations. It seems that the people that are suffering the most from this terrorism are the most vulnerable and marginalized in the community,
you can do that in 30
children.
seconds.
And this data, 1,100, is quite staggering.
Even
Brian.
UNICEF has 1,220, 1,120. That's staggering.
That is also why, Ibrahim, let me bring it back home. The government in northern parts of the country needs to do more than just talk on television and get to work on ground, because the vulnerability of these children vis-a-vis poverty, vis-a-vis education, is what is giving window to terrorists to come into their homes, recruit them as child soldiers. It doesn't look good at all. So we need to find a way of allowing policies to trickle from the center to the grassroots, so that we can stop this, or else we'll keep seeing children being recruited into such nonsense.
All right then, Mr. Shomi, last but not least is a Sporting Live, and there's a sad story right here on the front page of the newspaper. Onigbinde dies at 88.
Oh, well, that's sad. Festus Adegboyega Onigbinde was a very renowned coach in Nigeria. He's a chief from Modakeke in Oyo State. He played his role. He became, he's from Oyo State.
Is in Oyo or Ife?
In Osho State, sorry. Osho State. Modakeke beside Ife. And he became renowned, for his successes in coaching Nigerian Super Eagles, up to the point that we got a silver medal, I think, in one Cup of Nations against Cameroon. We lost to Cameroon. He was so celebrated. Then later he played his own role. He came back, to lead the ICC Shooting Stars of Football Club of Ibadan. Again, magnificently, with so many successes to his name. May his soul rest in perfect peace.
Yeah.
Amen. Well, that's about it for the newspapers offer review on the show today. It's just that it's so